On us. I would like to start with a Pledge of Allegiance. There's a flag both here and up there, so either direction. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to take care of some housekeeping measures before we get going on tonight's meeting. If you look in your town report on page 106, 107, and 108, it has the procedures for the meeting. I will remind everybody, my job is that of a facilitator. You have the right to overrule me on any decision that I make, and if you'd wish to do so, I ask you to go ahead and ask for a change on one of my decisions. I have the results of yesterday's voting. So for a town election, for Board of Selectmen, Katharina Kelsey, 230 votes, William Bolton, 199 votes, and Mike Weaver, 130 votes. And I declare Katrina Kelsey and William Bolton duly elected. And there was one write-in vote for Robert Trask. For town clerk, Karen Freitas, 297 votes, no write-ins. For tax collector, Linda Buffington, 301 votes, no write-ins. For supervisor checklist, Mary Halloran, 293 votes, no write-ins. For trustees of trust fund, Jeanette Currier, 282 votes with no write-ins. For A. John Bowers, for library trustee, 294 votes, no write-ins. Cemetery trustee, Jenny Tebow, 283 votes, one write-in for Tabitha Kunkendall, and 3 for Nick Mason. For moderator, Robert Clay, 295 votes, 2 write-ins for Quentin Blaine, 1 for Bill Billings, 1 for Shay Littleton, and 1 for Scott Kokendall. Zoning amendments. Article 2 passes 224 to 55. Article 3 passes 217 to 64. Article 4 passes 223 to 65. Article 5 passes 225 to 65. Article 6 passes 248 to 40. For Plymouth School District, Michael Watto, 295 votes, and 1 write-in for Bill Billings and 1 for Nick Mason. For Pemmy Baker Regional School District, Plymouth's votes, I'll share Plymouth's votes and I'll share the total votes. Plymouth votes for Holderness 3-year term, Sam Buckley, 242 votes, 2 write-ins. For Holderness, 234 votes for Bonnie Acton with no write-ins. For Plymouth, Timothy Narrow, 277 with 3 write-ins, Britt McDonald, Barbara Guinan, and 1 for Deb Narrow. Romney School Board, Maureen O'Hara, 232 votes. School Board member from Thornton, Walter Joyce, 236 votes. And School Board member from Thornton, Christy Duras, 229 votes, 1 write-in. And from Wentworth, Bernice Sullivan, 235 votes, no write-ins. The articles for the budget and the rest of the articles on the school district ballot. Article 1, yes, 219. Article no, 14. That was for negotiate and execute tuition contracts to authorize special education borrowing, 231 yes, 38 no. School Board Contingency Fund, 238 yes, 29 no. Campus Resource Officer, 172 yes, 89 no. Security upgrades, 216 yes, 50 no. I'm almost done. And the operating budget, 201 yes, 67 no. And I will give you the totals for SAU, for the regional school district. All of the articles passed. The only one, everything passed 2-1. The only ones that were even close to that was Campus Resource Officer was 1,100 to 664, and the actual budget 1,203 to 579. Water and Sewer Commissioner, Paul Sansouzi, 147. Write-ins, Marilisa O'Connor, 1. John Wood, 1. Brian Dutile, 1. Chris Woods, 1. Mike Conklin, 1. And for school, Water and Sewer Moderator, Quentin Blaine, 167, and 1 write-in for Mary-Elise O'Connor. And that is the results of your vote. Next, I would like to give the selectmen an opportunity to recognize a couple of people, and then I'll start with the warrant.
Hi, I'm Bill Bolton, and I'm the chair of the Select Board. And I'd like to call Chief Casino Clarkson to the dais, please. As you probably are aware, Chief Casino has been our police chief. Let's start all over again. Yeah. This is Casino's last town meeting, and he's going to be retiring this year. So we wanted to acknowledge him tonight by presenting a plaque to him, and I'll read the plaque. Presented to the Casino Clarkson, Fire Chief, Plymouth, New Hampshire, from 1990 to 2019. Thank you for your many years of service and dedication to the town of Plymouth. Presented by the Select Board members William Bolton, John Randlett, Michael Ahern, Brian Dutile, and Valerie Scarborough. Thank you very much.
Just a quick note, so we can get everything going. I'd like to thank everybody for supporting me. It's been a lifelong dream to be able to follow in my grandfather's footsteps, and I was able to do that, and it's been my pleasure to serve this town and this community, to come up through the ranks and then ending as fire chief. And once again, thank you very much.
And I'd also like to at least point out in the crowd basically our fire chief and trainee, Tom Morrison. And Tom has been the deputy for several years, and he's stepping up to the position of chief. Tom? And we're also going to celebrate the retirement of Chief Clarkson with a rather informal event. We're going to have an open house at the fire station. It's going to be Friday, March 29th, and from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I'd appreciate it if you just stop by and give your goodbyes and maybe share a story or two. Anyway, thank you, Chief. Val Scarborough, would you like to approach the dais? Val, this is, as you pointed out earlier, this is your second last meeting of the Select Board. And as you are very aware, Val always steps up to the fray whenever she's needed. And when I first joined the board 6 years ago, she was very much my mentor. And I really appreciated all the help that she provided. So, it's with deep regret that we wish you a fond farewell, but Val, thank you for your many years of service and dedication to the town of Plymouth. And we're going to award you this clock.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And just so everyone knows, you haven't seen the last of me. I'll still be on the budget committee, and I'll still be on the town's emergency management team, and I'll probably be on call for anything else that anybody needs from me. So thank you very much.
To the inhabitants of the town of Plymouth in the county of Grafton, the state of New Hampshire, qualified to vote in town affairs. You are hereby notified to meet at Plymouth Elementary School in Plymouth on Wednesday, the 13th March at 7 o'clock in the afternoon for deliberative session of the town meeting, in which time action will be taken upon the remaining articles of the warrant. I would love to entertain a motion to take the articles one at a time. Moved and seconded. Discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. It starts with Article number 3, because, did I read the zoning? I didn't have the zoning. Did I read the zoning? Yeah, there's too many things on here. So I'm starting with Article 7. KENO! All right. Shall we allow operation of KENO games in the town of Plymouth? This article was inserted by petition and requires a vote by ballot. So you all received, if you came in and checked in with the supervisors, a little packet of ballots. We'll be using the lavender. They're the lavender flavored ones on the top. And once we get ready to vote, you will rip your ballot in half and put inside the ballot box the ballot you wish to cast. Any questions on that? Okay. Can I have a motion to put this article on the floor? So moved. It's moved. Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Then come up to the microphone, please. State your name and speak your piece.
I was hoping I wouldn't be the first one, but so be it. Okay. My name is Gisela Estes, and I have lived in Plymouth for almost 48 years. For several reasons, I am against having KENO games come to Plymouth. I believe that gambling has no place in our beautiful town. Also, it has been well documented that gambling is addictive. We already have too much addiction in our area, and we do not need more. Furthermore, many of the people who gamble are of lower means, hoping against reality to improve their lives by a grand win. Our children are our most precious resources. Do we really want to educate them on the backs of the population in our state that least can afford it? Would it not be fairer for those of us who are more able to support education for our youngsters be called upon supporting them? As I said, our children are our most precious resources. When they grow up, they will support us by contributing to Medicare and Social Security. They will support us. Well-educated children will grow up to have better paying jobs and professions and will be more able to support us. But it should not be funded by gambling, one of the so-called sin taxes. I urge you to vote no on allowing the operation of KENO games in Plymouth. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, when somebody speaks, it is not appropriate to applaud. We will refrain from that. The only time we are allowed to applaud at a meeting like this is when we are congratulating somebody for something. That is out of order. Go ahead, Patrice.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. I was just wondering, I'm here to declare my ignorance about gambling, all the different things. I don't even know how to pick lottery tickets. So I'm just wondering if a proponent of this measure, is there somebody who could even explain what the KENO thing is? You know, is it the same thing we get at 7-Eleven? Is it a particular game, and how it differs from what's already available? I'm just curious before we vote on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Burnham?
My name is Patty Berman, and I can explain some of KENO. KENO goes to fund full-day kindergarten. So with the state adequacy aid education, each student is given $3,600 by the state through a grant. Kindergarten kids are considered half-day, so they only get $1,800 per student. KENO goes to fund the other half. The first year, for 2019, they will pay $1,100 minimum per kid. And to 2020, they will pay up to $1,800 so that it's fully funded. Now, we have full-day kindergarten in Plymouth, but that money will go to fund kindergarten so that it will go to either reduce our taxes or that money can be spent elsewhere in the school system. So I understand the whole gambling thing, but I also understand as a resident of Plymouth, and I have been for a long time, that our taxes are outrageous. And anything that can be done to help alleviate some of that tax burden on people is a good thing.
Is there any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? Okay, so this is what's going to happen. I'm going to go all the way over here to where the ballot boxes are. I'm going to demonstrate the ballot box is empty. I'm going to turn it upside down. I'm going to lock it. This is not a time opening. We'll get it done as quickly as possible so we can get on with the rest of the meeting. I will open the ballot box and let the supervisors count it and give me the results as soon as it's available. David, did you have a question? Yeah, well, yeah. I asked if you're ready for the question and nobody stepped up, but I'll give you a chance, yes.
I don't disagree with anything that the previous speakers have said. Gambling is perhaps the most regressive kind of tax we have, but it is voluntary. And I personally think the education of our youngsters is more important than what people voluntarily choose to do. I'm going to vote in favor of this.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Badalek.
It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that if a town does not vote or votes negative and doesn't want KENO, that they will still get the money that the state that Patty described. So if anybody else knows something different, I think that's correct.
Michael?
As far as where the money would go after it is collected, we asked that question at one of the select board meetings, and the way that it was explained to us, any funds that are developed from this in the town of Plymouth would go to the state and offset the kindergarten expenses statewide. So if only one town funds it, it goes to the state coffers. They would then disperse that money amongst all the towns. So it would not be offsetting the tax in Plymouth.
Okay. My understanding is...
Follow-up question?
Follow-up
Yes.
statement.
Yes, I'm giving you permission
My understanding
to.
is that several towns have already voted for KENO, so it certainly isn't just one town. And to add something else to that, I'm a nurse that works with people with addictions, and addictions, whether it's alcohol or other substance use, changes your brain chemistry. So in terms of it's a choice, medicine, evidence-based practice says that it's not a choice once your brain chemistry changes. The first one is a choice, and the more people use, the stronger the addiction, then there's brain chemistry changes, and it's not their choice anymore. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Yep. I would call you by your name, but I don't know it, so please.
My name is Patrick Wetmore. It's my understanding, in support of lowering our tax rate here in Plymouth, that it's 17 cents of every dollar. KENO dollar that's spent is earmarked for full-day kindergarten, which I believe Mike stated goes into a general fund and then is dispersed by the Department of Education around the state. So there's absolutely no guarantee that KENO operated in Plymouth will result in money coming to Plymouth. It should be noted that Alex Ray and the Common Man have said no to KENO as well in all of their establishments. Concord, Portsmouth, and Lebanon have said no to KENO. And quoting the Concord Monitor in an editorial published on February 17th, even if every community in New Hampshire said yes to KENO, the revenue would never cover the true cost of kindergarten, and the more the state won, the more its poorest residents would lose. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Are you now ready for the question? Okay. Again, I'm going to go over here. You're going to use your lavender ballot. You're going to rip it in half and put in the half that you wish to vote, and I'll meet you over there.
Kathy, make yourself a home. So make yourself a home. I did. Check out yourself.
To the extended proposal.
That's why I like those ballots. There's no question that says yes or no. There's no maybe at all. All right, we're going to go on with the next article, Article 8, General Government. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,710,445 for the fiscal year 2019-2020 general government expenses as follows. Salaries, fees, and expenses, Selectmen's Office, $470,537. Election registration, vital statistics, Town Clerk Office, $182,184. Financial administration, $310,561. Reappraisal of property, $75,000. Contract services, legal and other, $211,062. Personal administration, $1,500. Planning and zoning, $92,134. Land use enforcement, $118,661. General government buildings, $46,100. Miscellaneous insurance, workman's comp, liability, and unemployment, $177,785. Emergency management, $22,921. And care of trees, $2,000. Both the Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommended passage of this article. Can I have a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Are you ready for the question? I'm not going to read it again. All those in favor of Article 8 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 9, cemetery maintenance. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $50,849 for the purpose of cemetery maintenance and perpetual care for fiscal year 1920, and to offset the appropriation by further authorizing the withdrawal of $50,849 from the Cemetery Perpetual Care Trust Fund. This is again recommended by both the Selectmen and the Budget Committee. Is there a motion? It's been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 9 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. There's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $96,354 for fiscal year 1920, 2019-2020 welfare assistance as follows. Welfare officer, $26,354. Welfare vendor payments, $70,000. And again, this is recommended by both the Budget Committee and the Board. Do I have a motion? It's been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. We will now have the results of Article 7. The results of your vote are 39 yes, 77 no. Article 7 fails. Chair recognizes Mrs. Scarborough.
Mr. Moderator, I recommend restrict reconsideration of Article 7.
It's been moved to restrict consideration on Article 7. What that means is it can't come up again tonight, that we're done voting with it for this session. Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in in favor of restricting consideration on Article 7 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Which brings us to Article 11. To see if the town will vote to approve the cost of items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Board of Selectmen and the AFSME Council 93, which calls for the following estimated increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels, police and fire employees. Fiscal year 2019, police $38,247, fire $35,182, for a total of $73,429. And to further raise an appropriate amount of $73,429 for the fiscal year 2019 through 2020, such sum representing the additional costs attributed to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over that of the appropriation at current staffing levels paid in the prior fiscal year. Shall the town, if the article is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address article costs only? And this is just a simple majority vote. It is recommended by both the Selectmen and the Budget Committee. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? John Tucker.
I'm just curious, what percentage does this represent?
It's a 3%.
Pardon?
3%.
It's
Okay.
basically an extension on the previous year's contract.
Okay. Mr. Moderator, I wonder if I could ask a couple general questions about the budget at this point.
The general questions that to do with this raise?
No.
Nope. Then we'll wait for a better time. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep. Any other discussion on this? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 11 signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 12, Police and Dispatch, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,847,544 for fiscal year 2019-2020 public safety. Police and Dispatch as follows. Police Department, $1,440,567. Dispatch, $406,977. Recommended again by the Budget Committee and the Selectmen. Do I have a motion? Second. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Does your comment germane to this article as part of what you were saying? John? Is this article close to what you're talking about to be germane, the comment you wanted to make?
No, but I think it would be germane because all of these articles impact the budget, the final budget, and that's the question I have about the final budget figure.
How much? Yeah, that's a fair question. You can ask that now.
Okay, on page 125, the amount needed to be raised by taxes goes up $220,000. I just wonder what impact that will have on the tax rate.
So, John, that would be about 46 cents.
Pardon?
46 cents.
Per thousand.
Per thousand, correct.
46.
Because it'll take 480,000 to increase the tax rate by $1.
All right, thank you. I have one other question. Where in the revenues does the payment from the Plymouth State show up? I don't see it anywhere there.
Where is it?
Yeah.
Pardon? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm Marcia Schmidt-Blaine. I'm a part of the Budget Advisory Committee along with Val and with Ted. I wanted to mention that we were never asked to recommend. We reviewed both the police and the fire budgets, but we did not review other budgets. So just letting you know where we're coming from. It does say that we recommend them all. We haven't been asked to recommend.
Okay.
We actually also, just in passing, if I may, mentioned to the select board that we would very much like to have a charge and a clearer process as to what we need to be doing and looking for. We're not actually advising. Val may have other comments.
I'd just like to clarify that a little bit, because the Budget Committee members were invited to all of the budget meetings with the Select Board and to the budget public hearings, and had the opportunity at each of those meetings to make recommendations. And in many cases we did, but there was never an objection to any of the items on the budget. And I certainly, as chair of the Budget Committee, was in favor of each of the items on the warrant. So I would just say, no, it wasn't that the Budget Committee wasn't asked for recommendations, it was that they didn't speak at hearings.
Okay. Any discussion on the article? Are you ready for the question? All of those in favor of Article 12 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I'd like to move that we restrict reconsideration of warrant articles 8 through 12.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded to limit consideration on Articles 8 through 12. That means they cannot come back up on the floor tonight after everybody leaves with 3 people here. That's the Midnight Harry rule. Some of us are old enough to remember that. Any discussion on limiting debate on those? Limiting reconsideration. All those in favor of limiting reconsideration will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Which brings us to Article 13. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $166,344 for the purpose of funding the fiscal year 2019-2020 parking department, and to offset the appropriation by further authorizing the withdrawal of $35,000 from the parking special revenues fund. May I have a motion? A second. Discussion. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 13 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. There's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $125,127 for the purpose of funding fiscal year 2019-2020 resource officer, to be offset by $93,845 from SAU 48 school system. Can I have a motion? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? John?
I'm just curious, what are the duties of a resource officer?
You're not in school anymore, John. Those of us that are in a school every day really want one.
Is it security or a uniformed officer or what?
They would be assigned to both schools. There'd be one officer assigned to both schools.
And how much time will he spend? Just in the morning and
40 hours a week.
Thank you.
I'll tell you, a resource officer in our buildings, where I go to school, not only build relationships with students to help prevent issues from happening, but their security also, and they're a very important person in our building. They solve a lot of problems for us. My own personal opinion. I shouldn't add my own personal opinion. I apologize. Any further discussion?
Amy Lee. I am wondering if the school is going to be involved in the hiring of the resource officer if it passes.
Absolutely.
They work rather closely together all the time. Any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 14 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,363,258 for fiscal year 2019-2020 public safety, fire and ambulance as follows. Fire department, $1,248,388, and ambulance, $114,870. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 15 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $983,171 for fiscal year 2019-2020 for the Highway Department as follows. Highway Department, $928,171. Street lighting, $60,000. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Second. Discussion.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I think you said 928, 171 is 923.
Okay. The total is $983,171. The breakout is $923,171, and street lighting, $60,000. Sir.
John Mockley. The Energy Commission, which has disbanded, but years ago went through the exercise of working with the co-op to map out the street lighting and get it all changed to LED. Where do we stand with that, and is there ever going to be a decrease in that amount of $60,000?
Mr. Bolton.
So it's in the co-op's hands. We're waiting for the co-op to get back to us. Did you hear that, Larry? I think so.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of Article 16 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $10,000 for fiscal year 2019-2020 for the purpose of sidewalk repairs. Sidewalk repairs, $10,000. Do I have a motion? Oops, excuse me, and to offset the appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of $10,000 from the Sidewalk Improvement Capital Reserve Fund created for that purpose. Now I'll entertain the motion. Is there a second? Any discussion? I have to tell you, I've been doing this for 40 years, and for years and years and years, it was $500, and we would go on for 20 minutes over where they were going to spend the $500 on the sidewalks. This is kind of refreshing to me. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 17 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. To vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it.
Mr. Moderator, yes. I move to restrict reconsideration of warrant articles 13 through 17.
Been moved and seconded. Is that a second that was somebody saying back there? Okay. And the motion on the floor is to limit reconsideration of articles 13 through 17. Everybody ready? All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $436,315 for fiscal year 2019-2020 for sanitation as follows. Recycling solid waste disposal, $433,015. Pemmy Baker Solid Waste District dues, $3,300. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,181,591 for fiscal year 2019-2020 for departmental operations as follows. Park and Recreation, $704,980. Library, $442,811. Patriotic Purposes, $4,700. Band concerts, $8,000. Town Common Traffic Aisles, $4,000. Friends of the Arts, $100. Health enrollment, and, Health Enforcement, $10,000. And Airport, $7,000. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $2,000 for the Plymouth Conservation Commission for the fiscal year 2019-2020. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 20 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Is the vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 21, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $5,000 for the purpose of the Plymouth Conservation Commission capital projects. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Discussion. Yes.
Can someone explain what the capital projects that they have on their radar are?
I'm the select board rep to the Conservation Commission, and capital projects can include purchase of land, or it can also include work on something like a waterfront park, something like that, but money's being put away annually towards that purpose.
Is there any further discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 21 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 22, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $8,400 for the purpose of landfill closure monitoring. Can I have a motion? Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes.
I just wonder, is the landfill closure, has that been totally paid for now? Are we still got a bond issue we're paying off on that?
Hold on, John.
That wasn't a question we anticipated. But we'll find the answer.
I'll get my answer seated.
Do you have an answer? Yeah.
So yes, the bond has been paid for. This $8,400 is the annual monitoring that we have to do.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Are you ready for the question? All of those in favor of Article 22 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I move we restrict reconsideration of warrant articles 18 through 22.
There's a motion to restrict reconsideration on Articles 18 through 22. Do I have a second? Second. Discussion? All those in favor of limiting reconsideration of Articles 18 through 22 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 23, to see if the town vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $112,500 to fund the following capital item. Improve road construction, $100,000, crushed gravel, $2,500. $12,500. And to further offset the appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of $40,000 from the Motor Vehicle Capital Reserve Fund. Can I have a motion? Second. Discussion. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 23 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. To see if the municipality, Article 24, to see if the municipality will vote to authorize the selectmen to enter into a long-term lease purchase agreement in the amount of $185,957, payable over a term of 5 years for a 2017, that's why I do math and don't read, Penrith? What is it? Pre-Naw. Okay. SW4S sidewalk plow for the Highway Department, and to raise and appropriate a sum of $37,192 to fund years 1 of 5. This lease agreement contains non-appropriation clause. Sidewalk tractor, $37,192. Majority vote is required on this. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
In a second. Go ahead, Mr.
I want to say that the sidewalk tank that they have now, because that's basically what it is, does a wonderful job, and the guy that was operating it did a great job this year trying to keep the sidewalks open. But that is such a big improvement over the wheeled thing that we used to use and trying to keeping the sidewalks open. It did a much, much better job.
Is this the only model of sidewalk tractor that was looked at, or were there less expensive models looked at?
Use the microphone, please.
It's probably in the mid-range, and so we have...
Can you pull the microphone a little closer, please? If I can't hear you, I'm sure they can't.
I don't know. Is it on? Okay, so the older models, if you don't buy one that's going to last, it's going to break down and just fall apart. So that's in the mid-range, and so far we've had phenomenal success with it. Yeah, they were, and we decided on this one because of two reasons: the funding and the quality of it. A lot of the parts we can buy in the U.S. versus going over.
Okay, John?
Yes, I first want to say I appreciate the job the Highway Department does in keeping my road, Old Oak Ridge Road, open. It's been a tough winter, but I appreciate it. I guess I was blown away by this figure. Can I ask you, how much did your biggest dump truck cost?
The new Kenworths?
A brand new, what is it, 10-wheeler or 8-wheeler, 6-wheeler?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the figure in front of me, but it's under 200,000.
So this cost as much or more. This is 2 years old, is that correct?
Well, we bought it new.
You bought it new?
Yeah.
How much?
Oh, the sidewalk tractor. Yeah, no, the one we just have, we bought it new.
How much did it cost new?
About 70,000.
About 70?
Yeah, I think.
I'm not sure he's understanding the question. You're asking about the sidewalk plow we have now. How much did that cost? You're asking about a truck.
No, I got the answer on a truck, about 200,000.
Okay, so now
I'm asking now, this is 2 years old. How much did it cost brand new?
The truck or the tractor? The tractor.
He's talking about the sidewalk plow. He wants to know how old it is and how much it cost when we bought it last time.
The old one, about the same as the one we just purchased, but it's twice the quality.
And, okay, what's the life expectancy of this?
So, 5 years, you should be looking at a new one, but in our world, we're probably gonna go 7 to 8 years. And after 10 years, that's how, they take such a beating that you should turn them over that often.
Well, I understand that it's certainly important to keep the sidewalks open, but for something that's used 5 months a year, it's an extraordinary expense. And I guess I'm just curious as to what.
Well, our old one has tires on it, so it's versatile.
Okay.
But this new one that we bought, we just ran it for one season, and we had no maintenance on it, and the other one breaks down continuously, so.
Okay.
All right.
Paul has more information.
We've gone a little bit off track here. The one that we're using now hasn't cost anything. We got to try it for a year for free. This is to be able to keep it.
You got 2 years for free? Or?
We've only had it this season.
No, it's the machine
He
that's
was getting
being.
the truck mixed up. Your truck question got mixed up with the sidewalk plow question. That machine is brand new. We got to try it this season, and we got to try it for free.
So we've had it free for a year, now they want to purchase it. That's
Our
what
other
this
one
is.
broke down.
The other one broke, so they let us use this one for a year for free to try it, to see if we liked it. Now we're asking to purchase it over a 5-year lease purchase agreement.
And how Joe pulled that off, I don't know. All credit to Joe.
That's true.
Okay, good, thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Mr. Kent?
I don't understand the title on this article. Is this just for the sidewalk plow?
Yes. It's a lease purchase agreement for a sidewalk plow for the town of Plymouth that we've had a use of for a year for no charge, that now we're being asked, or we're asking to purchase.
We're going to raise $185,000.
Over 5 years. It's a lease purchase.
It isn't a $37,000 tractor.
It's $37,000 this year, next year, year after. It's a lease purchase, which is a certain amount every year for 5 years.
And what is a non-appropriation clause?
Non-appropriation clause, if you don't raise the money next year, it goes back, and we don't pay for it.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 24 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 25, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $10,000 to fund the following capital item: cemetery truck purchase, and to further offset the appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of $10,000 from the Cemetery Perpetual Care Trust Fund. May I have a motion? And a second. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 25 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 26, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $20,000 to fund the following capital item: highway equipment repairs. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All those in favor of Article 26 will signify by saying aye. Oops, I'm sorry, Quentin, I didn't see you.
I think this is the proper time this year. What is the plan for the highway repairs this year?
Plan for highway repairs.
A plan? I'm not sure how can you break that down? I'm not sure what you mean.
I guess what roads are you intending to fix?
Oh, the roads.
It's not for the
I
road.
was waiting for our budget to be done, but we have some sections on Highland to do, and we're still working on a bunch of infrastructure, so.
Quentin, this is for equipment repairs for highway department.
Repairs, okay.
Equipment repairs.
I missed it. I must have read the wrong one.
It's only equipment, and that's
It's only
for
equipment, okay. All right, I take back my question.
Okay.
I'll get back to the right.
future repairs.
Well, it's the wrong time to ask.
Okay. That one already passed, Quentin. That one's gone. Is there any more discussion on Article 26? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 27, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $234,539 for payment number 4 of the $2 million infrastructure bond approved in 2016. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Article 27 passes. Article 28.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I move we restrict the reconsideration of warrant articles 23 through 27.
There's a motion to restrict consideration on Articles 23 through 27. Do I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor of limiting reconsideration on Articles 23 through 27 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 28, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $136,972 for payment number 9 of the library expansion project bond. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Discussion. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 28 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 29, to see if the town will vote to raise appropriate a sum of $95,619 for the below-listed agencies. Animal Control Agreement with the Humane Society, $6,500. Lakes Region Planning Commission, $5,232. Baker River Watershed, $300. Pemmy River Local Advisory Committee, $300. Pemmy Baker Community Health Agency, $15,000. Grafton County Senior Citizens, $15,000. Tri-County Community Action Program, $7,646. Voices Against Violence, $4,000. Red Cross, $3,141. Pemmy Youth Center, $8,000. Genesis Lakes Region Mental Health, $7,000. Katie, $8,000. CASA, Court-Appointed Child Advocates, $1,000. Bridge House, $13,000. Plymouth Historical Society, $500. And Transport Central, $1,000. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Patrice.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm just wondering, I wanted to ask the selectmen if we still have a non-profit review committee that's operating, or if that's gone by the wayside. We used to have a committee that reviewed requests and we asked for certain information. I just noticed in the reports that only really 2 of these agencies, I see the reports in the annual report, and only one of them really has the information that was specified before. Most importantly, how many people, how many residents in the town of Plymouth are helped each year by their services. I think they're very vital agencies. I spoke with our welfare officer earlier, and she told me how beneficial they are to the town. I have no doubt about that, but I always think it's good to just have somebody reviewing so we don't get into the situation of having, pet projects for, over the years for different people. We want to be even-handed and non-discriminatory in the way we hand out our very few funds that we have in this area.
Patrice, my courier has been tasked to do that, but since he's not here, I don't know, Val, if you want to comment on that, or?
I know that the Budget Committee does receive applications from every one of the nonprofits that requests funds, and makes some very careful distinctions between what's fair,
Right.
what's not fair, who provides the greatest benefit to the town. But he looks at everything from how much funding they get from other communities, whether they help other communities, and
Right.
yeah, it's a very thorough review, and and incomplete applications are rejected. They just aren't
Okay,
considered.
so there's some oversight that's still being provided.
It's-
Okay,
it's
I just wanted to
exactly-
check,
yeah,
Mr.
a
Moderator.
lot of
Could I
oversight.
have one follow-up? In response to something Professor Blaine had mentioned, I was I'm just wondering, have we changed the nature of the budget committee, the advisory budget committee? Because for years, and I've been here now 30 years, we used to elect representatives on the floor of town meeting to join the budget committee. And I know it's always hard to get volunteers, and you know, we had a stable committee for a long time, and we always had electors coming from the floor of town meeting to sit on this committee. And that's where the nonprofit budget committee also, there was so much work on the budget committee, we had tried to do a little side thing with the nonprofit committee. So I'm just wondering, like, over time, everything, you know, volunteers wane, and I'm just wondering, did we change to selectmen appointing people for the budget committee? And we have our selectmen involved on the budget committee now? Because that's not the way it used to be. It used to be the budget committee was independent electors elected at town meeting, reviewing the budget and making recommendations.
So, Patrice, I think it was about 6 years ago when that stopped because nobody came forward, and we're continuously seeking volunteers. So.
Okay. Well, then I would just love to, Mr. Moderator, invite the town meeting to consider whether this is something they'd like to reinstitute, and you know, everything depends on volunteers. So if there are people that would be willing to come forward, that's something we used to do historically, elect people for the budget committee 2 a year. They served 4-year terms, and whether that's something we want to consider for the next year.
Patrice, I'd also like to add that it's not normal for a selectman to serve on the budget committee, but in this case, I was appointed to complete a term that was vacated, and I was already on the budget committee, so it made sense for me to continue.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Well, thanks, Val. That clears that up, too.
I'll still be a volunteer.
Yeah, I just wondered if it was just appointed, if we went to appointed versus the volunteers. Okay, thank you.
Patrice, would you be amenable to being on the committee?
I've done my terms, 6 years.
We all
and
have.
John Tucker and Paul Sansuzi.
You're volunteering somebody for us?
No, thank you. Not this time, but thanks. Thanks for trying.
Okay, and just to point out too, you know, this article hasn't increased. It's been flat funded. And Mike was kind of torn. Everyone did request an increase, and we felt that we had to keep it down that level. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Just 1 second. Go ahead. No.
Okay.
I recognized you first.
Okay. I just wonder what the Regional Planning Commission does. I've never heard of that before. I've heard of everything else but that. So I wasn't sure if anyone had any insight on what they did.
Okay. And maybe you can answer that too, Michael. Michael, when you're... He says, I'm passing that one.
So what we do is we subscribe to a regional planning commission. Every town does. And actually last year we were with North Country Council, and this year we are with Lakes Region Planning Commission. So that's their annual dues.
But what do they do? That was the question.
They provide all sorts of, like, you know, research, highway studies. Actually, they you know, come up with grants. Recently, there's a brownfields grant that they're offering us. You know, so they give us a lot of opportunities. They make up for what we pay them, and they help us with planning.
Yes, come up to the microphone, please. Sorry. Oh, point of order. You can holler that right out. Oh, go ahead, please. Go to the microphone, please.
Sorry. I know many people here naturally by first names, last names, but I'm training my deputy, and she doesn't know everyone, so if they could just state their names when they come up, it will help us take our minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Karen Freitas, and if you don't know, I'm your town clerk.
Is there any other discussion on Article 29?
I was just going to add, Mr. Moderator, in response to Patrice, there was discussion on each line item. It wasn't a rubber stamp, and it's eye-opening to see, and I'm sure you know, all the things that these organizations do for Plymouth. And but I do think that you're accurate that that probably more thought needs to be put into that to see whether we are funding it at the right amount. We did talk about a different lowering it or increasing it, but it stayed level funded. And I, for one, would love to see more input with an active committee of volunteers that want to come forward.
Is there any more discussion on Article 29? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 29 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. There's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 30, to see if the town will vote to add to the existing capital reserve funds under provisions of RSA 35:1 for the following purposes, and to raise and appropriate the respective sums totaling $191,289 to be placed in said funds. Recycling, equipment, grounds, and building maintenance, $10,000. Fire tower truck replacement, $31,666. Fire engine 4 replacement, $10,384. Fire engine 3 replacement, $29,239. Conservation Commission, $5,000. Highway heavy equipment, $40,000. Highway material handling equipment, $25,000. Fire ambulance replacement fund, $40,000. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Discussion. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Article 30 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Which brings us to, do you want to restrict consideration before I do Article 31?
I move that we restrict reconsideration of warrant articles 28 through 30.
There's a motion to restrict consideration on Articles 28 through 30. Do I have a second? Discussion. You ready for the question? All those in favor of restricting consideration on Articles 28 through 30 will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 31, to transact any other business that may legally come before this meeting. John first, and then David.
I just think everyone should know what the university pays toward town expenses. So I just wonder, what was that figure this year? How much Plymouth State pays to the town?
John, I'm being told it's 500 this year, and we're going to be renegotiating the LSSA. I think that the current one ends in July, and after that we'll be under a new agreement.
500,000, you said?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
David?
Thank you. Last year at this meeting, the idea was put forward that we have a school officer. I'm going to put forward the notion we should have one in both buildings. And I'd also like to ask the selectmen if perhaps next year we could have a deliberative session by the budget committee looking at the budget itself so that the recommendations actually are followed. Thank you.
Any other business come before this meeting? Do you want to speak?
So I had last year about the recycling center, and you guys at the time were recycling 1s and 2s. I know I'm that person. And you guys had expanded what you were recycling. I wanted to know how that's changed. I know there's been a lot of articles about how expensive it is to sell trash these days. And a lot of communities have stopped recycling many things. I just want to know where we were at as a town. I'd love to be doing anything I can to encouraging us to use waste properly in this town.
Okay.
Oh, Britt McDonald.
Do I have an answer to that before you?
Oh, sorry, there's an answer.
Yeah. Any?
Yeah, that's me. So as of right now, we are recycling film. So that's your grocery bags, dog food bags. We're starting to do that. So we're getting that out of the waste stream.
Can you hold the microphone a little closer to your mouth, please? It's like a lollipop. You want it real close so we can hear you.
Also, we are recycling other types of plastics other than 1s and 2s. We just haven't put new signage up. We haven't put it in our new flyers yet. Once we run another set of flyers, those will be that will be put in there. That we are recycling different types of plastic. We have currently saved almost 3,000 pounds from going into the landfill, just pulling those and recycling those. And there's actually companies calling me asking what are we recycling, and they're very interested in our products.
Excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just wanted to draw the body's attention to, for the first time that I've noticed, the annual report from Plymouth State University in our town report on page 74 and 75. And I'm hoping when the selectmen, what I was happy to see and hear was that there was an admission that the college has grown for 4 years in a row, even though when previous boards were told it wasn't going to grow at all. So I'm very happy to see this report. I thought it would be appropriate to have the LSSA funds mentioned. I was surprised not to see some mention to that. Certainly appreciate everything that the college gives us, but I also was very curious and piqued by the idea that there's weddings that are going to be given at the old Holy Spirit Church when that's away. So I just want to remind you that we went to a lot of trouble with the House bill, and Mary Cooney and Deb Narrow did get sponsor a passage of a little bill that would give us some revenue of non-educational things. I think we need to look into that. It was, regarding originally the bookstore coffees, and it was such a little amount. I'm sure we never pursued whatever when Barnes & Noble came to the campus. But if this is a profit-making entity and holding weddings, the last I knew, that wasn't a main mission, educational mission of state universities to hold weddings in their buildings. So I'd be very interested about that and see if there's any revenue that's going to be generated that would fall under the bills that were passed previously. Okay.
Any other business? We stand adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.